I thought I had a stalker. But the truth is, I'd had one for years, I just didn't know it. It started on a Tuesday night that felt like any other. I was in bed, in my little pink satin sleep top, face buried in my pillow, half drooling, half dreaming about being anywhere but my own boring life. My room was dark except for the strip of moonlight coming through the curtains. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My mom had gone to bed hours ago. The TV in the living room was off. No traffic outside. Just the usual house noises, pipes, wind, the occasional creak you tell yourself is nothing. And then I felt it. You know that feeling when you're being watched? Not heard, not touched, just watched. It hit me like cold air on the back of my neck. I didn't hear a sound. No footsteps, no door, nothing. But I snapped awake so fast my heart was already racing before my eyes opened. I didn't move at first. I just lay there, completely still, staring at the wall in front of me, breathing quietly. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me not to turn around. Like if I didn't move, whatever was in the room wouldn't see me. But curiosity is stronger than fear, right? Very slowly, I rolled onto my back and looked up. And that's when I saw him. There was a figure crouched on top of my wardrobe. Not standing, not sitting. Crouched. Like some kind of animal waiting to jump. His knees were pulled up, one arm resting across them, the other holding a phone. The screen was glowing, lighting up just enough of his face for me to see pale skin, messy dark hair, and eyes that were locked directly on me. We stared at each other. I didn't even scream right away. I was that shocked. My brain refused to believe what my eyes were seeing. It was like my mind was trying to come up with sane explanations. Maybe it's a coat. Maybe it's a shadow. Maybe I'm still dreaming. And then the phone in his hand flashed. He took a picture of me. That's when the scream finally came. I shot upright and screamed so loud my throat burned. He moved, fast. One moment he was on the wardrobe, the next he jumped down on the other side, landing silently like he'd done it 1,000 times. The door to my room swung open, and before I could grab anything or even think, he was gone. Just heavy footsteps in the hallway, and then nothing. My mom burst into my room seconds later, hair wild, robe half-tied, asking,
"What happened? What's wrong?"
I was shaking, pointing, trying to explain, but the words came out in pieces. Someone was here. He was in my room, on the wardrobe. He took a picture. She checked the hallway, the bathrooms, the front door, all the windows. Everything was locked. No broken glass, no forced entry, no stranger, no obvious sign of anything. It was like he'd melted into the walls. We called the police. They came, asked questions, walked through the house with flashlights, wrote notes, left footprints all over the carpet. They didn't say it, but I could feel it in the way they looked at me. Late teen girl, alone in bed, dark house, bad dream, overactive imagination. One of them even asked if I'd been
under a lot of stress lately.
I wanted to punch him. They took a report and left. My mom slept in my bed that night. I didn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him looking down at me, that little flash of light hitting my face. That was the night I thought I got my first stalker. What I didn't realize was that night wasn't the beginning. It was just the moment I finally opened my eyes. The weirdness started small, long before I ever saw him. At first, it felt like I was just being clumsy or forgetful. My bedroom door would be open a crack when I was sure I'd closed it. My phone would be on the floor in the morning instead of plugged in on my nightstand. My closet door, a door I always keep shut, would be open just enough to see darkness inside. I'd find my pillow on the wrong side of the bed. My blanket folded weirdly at the bottom, like someone had lifted it and then dropped it again. Once, I woke up with my bedroom window open a tiny bit, letting in cold air. I blamed the wind. I blamed myself. I blamed everything except what was actually happening. Because nothing was missing. That's what I kept telling myself. If someone was really breaking in, why didn't they take anything? Why not steal my laptop? My jewelry? Even my stupid fake designer bag from the mall? But nothing was gone. Things moved, things shifted, but nothing left. And then there were the mirrors. One night I came home from a late shift and walked into my room. My full-length mirror was fogged up like someone had stepped out of a hot shower and breathed on it. I hadn't been home all day. The window near it was cracked open just enough to let in air, but it was freezing outside. There was no reason for fog. Right in the middle of the glass, like someone had leaned in close, the fog was thicker. I wiped it away, told myself it was humidity, told myself it was nothing. I didn't mention that part to the cops. After that night on the wardrobe, I tried to move on. School, work, friends. I acted normal. But my whole world shrunk down to that room. I couldn't sleep without the light on. I started stacking boxes in front of my bedroom door before bed. If something moved, I'd know. I pushed a chair under the handle, too. It felt ridiculous, like I was in a horror movie. But it also felt better than doing nothing. Still, weird things kept happening. My phone battery would be dead in the morning even though I'd left it charging. I'd wake up and find my camera app open. Sometimes there were new photos, blurry ceiling shots, dark shapes that looked like nothing, grainy close-ups of my sheets, my hair, my hand, or my face. Once there was a picture of me sleeping taken from above. It was so close I could see every pore on my nose. My mouth was slightly open, eyes half closed, face relaxed. The angle was impossible. There was no way I could have taken it myself. I deleted it immediately, and then I sat on the floor and cried. That was when I decided to do my own investigation because clearly the adults in my life weren't doing much. My mom kept saying,
"We'll be fine. I locked all the doors."
Like locks mattered if someone already knew how to get in. The police never followed up. So I bought a cheap little camera online, the kind people use as baby monitors or pet cams. I hid it in a plant in my room facing the bed. That first night, I barely slept. I lay there listening, waiting, counting the seconds until morning. When the sun finally came up, I jumped out of bed and checked the footage. Corrupted. The file showed up, but when I pressed play, all I got was static. I thought maybe I'd messed something up, so I tried again the next night, adjusting the angle, clearing space on the SD card, double-checking the Wi-Fi. Same thing, static. Third night in a row, I set it up again. This time, I prayed. Not some big holy prayer, just a little desperate whisper. Please, let me see something. Anything. I just want to know if I'm crazy. That night, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. again. Same feeling, same cold air. But when I opened my eyes, I didn't see anyone. No silhouette on the wardrobe, no shadow in the corner, just my messy room and the blinking little camera light. In the morning, I opened the file and it played. The footage was grainy and a little dark, but I could see my bed, my door, my wardrobe. For the first few hours, nothing happened. Just me rolling over, cuddling my pillow, drooling. Cute, embarrassing, normal. Then, around 2:50 a.m., my bedroom door opened. Slowly, like someone was trying not to make noise. The boxes I'd stacked in front of it slid across the floor, just enough for the door to squeeze through. A figure slipped inside. Tall-ish, slim, moving carefully. He walked right past the camera without looking at it. He went to my window and checked the latch, then he walked to my bed. I watched him watching me. He stood over me for a long time. Too long. Then he turned, grabbed the edge of my wardrobe, and climbed up like it was nothing, crouching at the top. He sat there, crouched, staring at me. The timestamp on the footage ticked forward. 2:58 a.m., 3:05 a.m., and 3:11 a.m., and he didn't move. And then, at 3:17, I saw my own body jerk in the bed as I woke up. I watched myself look up at him. I watched him lift his phone. The flash lit up the screen. The video glitched right there for a second, static. And then he was gone. My entire body broke out in goosebumps. Watching it on the screen was worse than seeing it live. Seeing proof. seeing how long he'd been there, just waiting. I took the footage to my mom. She watched it once, her hand over her mouth. Then she immediately called the police again. This time, they took it seriously. They asked for the SD card. One of them said they'd try to lift a fingerprint from the door or the window. They told us to stay somewhere safe for a few days. So we packed bags and went to my aunt's house across town. I tried to feel relieved, but it felt like I'd just left my skin behind in that room. 2 days later, the police called. They'd gotten a fingerprint from the outside window frame where somebody had apparently been climbing in and out. They told us the name. I almost dropped the phone. It was Ethan, the boy who used to live next door to us when I was little, my childhood friend, the kid who used to build pillow forts with me in the living room, who taught me how to ride a bike, who moved away when I was 9 and never came back. Or so I thought. Mom covered the receiver and whispered,
See? I told you, some obsessed boy. This is why you can't be too friendly.
She was angry and scared and trying to make it my fault all at once. I just stood there, numb. That night, I lay awake on my aunt's lumpy couch thinking about Ethan. I remembered his crooked smile, the way he'd always stand a little closer to me than necessary, how he'd gotten strangely quiet the week before his family moved. I wondered what had happened to him, how he'd found me again, why he was watching me now. Obsessed, they said. That was the word everyone kept using. The police, my aunt, my mom.
He must have been obsessed with you.
People said it like that explained everything. Like it made sense of someone sitting on your wardrobe at 3 a.m. taking photos while you slept. For a while, I believed it, until the night I saw him again. It was the 4th night at my aunt's house. I was in the upstairs guest room trying to pretend the unfamiliar shadows didn't bother me. The window looked out over the street instead of the backyard like at home. I'd locked it, double-checked, triple-checked. It still didn't make me feel better. Around midnight, I heard a noise outside. Not the house creaking, not the wind, something else, a scuff, like a shoe against brick. I got up and pulled the curtain back just a little, and there he was, standing on the sidewalk across the street under a street lamp, hands in his pockets, hood down, looking straight at my window. Ethan, older, taller, but definitely him. Pale skin, dark hair that fell into his eyes, same crooked mouth. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't try to come closer, just stood there, staring up at me. My whole body went cold. I froze, barely breathing. After what felt like forever, he raised his hand. Not in a wave, not in a threat, in a warning. He pointed to my window. Then slowly, he shook his head. Like he was telling me, don't open it and don't let him in. Before I could even process what that meant, headlights turned the corner. A car drove by, and when the light swept over the street, Ethan was gone. I should have told my mom. I should have called the police. But I didn't. Something about the way he'd looked at me from the street lamp didn't feel like a threat. It felt scared. Like he was trying to tell me something and didn't know how. The next day, I did something dumb. I went back home. Not permanently. I just told my mom I needed to get clothes. I convinced her to let me go with my cousin in the afternoon while it was still light outside. It wasn't about the clothes. I think part of me needed to see the room again, to prove to myself it was real, to prove that I hadn't made this whole thing up. Walking back into the house felt like walking into a crime scene. Everything was exactly where we'd left it. The couch, the shoes by the door, the half-burned candle on the coffee table. My bedroom door still had faint marks where the boxes had scratched the wood. I stepped inside my room and the air felt wrong, heavy, like the walls remembered too much. My cousin went to the bathroom. I went straight to my dresser. I pretended to look for clothes while my eyes scanned every detail. The window lock, the wardrobe, the spot where the camera had been, the mirror. And that's when I saw it. A small folded piece of paper tucked between the mirror frame and the wall. Like someone had shoved it there in a hurry. My heart started beating faster. I reached up and gently pulled it out. It was a photo. Printed. Old. It was me. Maybe 12 years old, lying on the old version of this bed, the one I had before we redecorated. My hair was shorter, my face rounder. I was asleep, mouth open, arm flung over my face. The angle was high, like someone had taken it from above. On the back of the photo, in messy handwriting, was a date. 8 years ago. I felt sick. This wasn't new. This hadn't started this year or last year. Someone had been doing this to me since I was a kid.
Hey, you okay?
My cousin called from the hallway. I shoved the picture into my pocket and lied. Yeah, just found some old stuff. That night at my aunt's, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I waited until my mom was half asleep on the couch, then sat down and showed her the photo. She stared at it for a long time, longer than I expected. Her face changed in a way that scared me more than anything else had. The color drained out of her cheeks. Her eyes got shiny. She didn't look surprised. She looked guilty.
Where did you get this?
She whispered. In my room, I said. Behind the mirror. Mom, this was taken 8 years ago. Ethan didn't live next door 8 years ago. He'd already moved. So if it wasn't him, then who?
Stop.
She snapped. Too quickly, too sharp. I shut up. She pressed her fingers to her forehead and muttered, more to herself than to me.
This should have never happened again.
Again. That word hit me like a slap. Again? I repeated. What do you mean, again? What are you talking about? She hesitated. I could see the panic behind her eyes. She looked like a dam about to break. Then she stood up suddenly and said,
I'm going to bed. We'll talk in the morning.
She didn't look at me again. Spoiler, we did not talk in the morning, because something happened in the middle of the night that made sure of it. I woke up around 2:40 a.m. to the familiar feeling of cold air and wrongness. I was in the guest room again, on the lumpy couch bed, but the feeling was exactly the same as at home. Like the room had been holding its breath until I opened my eyes. This time, I didn't look at the wardrobe or the mirror. I looked at the window. There, standing on the fire escape outside the glass, was Ethan. He was closer than before. I could see the fear in his eyes even through the glass. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't creeping. He was panicking. He pressed his hand flat to the window, mouthing words I couldn't fully hear, but I could read his lips.
He's inside.
Before I could even move, I heard the floorboard behind me creak. Slowly, very slowly, I turned. There, standing in the doorway of the guest room, was my mom's boyfriend, Mark, the one who'd moved in 2 years ago, the one who worked nights sometimes, the one who always had a reason to be up late. He was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie like he'd just rolled out of bed, but his eyes were too awake, too focused. In his hand was my old camera, the one I'd set up in my room. He was scrolling through the footage. Through my footage.
Couldn't sleep?
He asked casually, like he hadn't just been standing over my bed 2 nights ago. My mouth went dry. Behind him, down the hallway, I could see the glow of the living room light. I could hear the TV quietly playing something no one was watching. I suddenly remembered all the nights I woke up thirsty and found him on the couch, insisting he couldn't sleep either. And now there he was in the doorway between me and the rest of the house, holding my camera like it belonged to him. I didn't answer. I couldn't. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him with his foot. The click of the latch sounded louder than it should have.
You scared your mom.
He said, shaking his head like I'd thrown a tantrum.
All this drama about stalkers and cameras and shadows, and now the cops are involved. You know they looked at me first? I live in the same house as you. They asked me questions like I was some kind of criminal.
He laughed softly.
Didn't feel very good.
My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. Outside, Ethan hit the window with his fist, trying desperately to get my attention. I kept my eyes on Mark. I didn't want him to know someone else was there. Can I have my camera? I managed to whisper. He smiled. Not kindly. Not at all.
You know, I really didn't mind at first.
he said, ignoring my question.
Kids have imaginations. Teen girls crave attention. But then you brought the police into it. That was messy.
He swiped to another video on the camera and turned the screen toward me. It was me again, sleeping in my old room. The date on the bottom of the screen was from 3 months ago, before Ethan showed up, before I ever set my own camera up. The angle was from the ceiling, like a hidden camera.
I've looked out for you for years,
Mark murmured.
long before your little neighbor boy got involved. You don't know how many nights I caught people looking at you. Drunk guys passing by, delivery drivers, even your mother's friends.
His eyes hardened.
I dealt with them.
He stepped closer. I could smell his cologne and something else, metallic, sharp, like cold air in winter.
You're safest when you're asleep.
He said.
Do you understand that? When you're still, quiet, not making stupid choices, not inviting trouble. I was the only one paying attention.
Outside, Ethan hit the window harder, mouthing,
Go. Run.
I swallowed. My voice came out small.
So it was you, the pictures, the mirror, the window, all this time. Why?
He tilted his head.
Because you weren't careful enough, because your mother was too busy, because someone had to keep an eye on you, and then you brought the police.
His face twisted.
So now we have a problem.
That was the moment everything inside me, all the fear and disgust and anger, snapped into something sharp. I wasn't safe. I never had been. Not with him in the house, not with my mom pretending not to see the signs, not with the police treating me like an overdramatic kid. The only person who seemed to actually believe there was a problem was the boy outside on the fire escape. I took a breath. You're right, I said, forcing my voice to sound steady. We do have a problem. I grabbed the nearest thing I could reach, a heavy glass lamp from the nightstand, and threw it at the window as hard as I could. The glass shattered with a scream of noise. Cold air rushed in. Ethan stumbled back as shards rained down, then climbed through the broken window in one smooth jump. Mark spun toward the sound, eyes wide, caught off guard. Ethan didn't hesitate. He tackled Mark from behind, the two of them crashing into the dresser. The camera flew out of Mark's hand and skidded across the floor. Both of them were yelling, wrestling, knocking over anything in reach. I scrambled to my feet, grabbed the camera, and bolted into the hallway. "Mom!" I screamed. "Oh, call the police, now!" Doors flew open. Lights switched on. My mom came out of her room, hair messy, eyes wild. Behind her, my aunt and uncle appeared too. I shoved the camera into my mom's hands. "It was him!" I shouted, pointing back toward the guest room. "It was Mark, the whole time. He's the one who was in my room. He has videos. On this, just call the police, please." My mom's face went slack as she started flipping through the footage. I saw the moment realization hit her. All the late nights, all the excuses, all the times she brushed off my fear. Her knees almost buckled. My uncle ran past us into the guest room yelling, "Break it up!" I heard more shouting, more crashing. Ethan stumbled out a second later, lip bleeding, breathing hard. Mark tried to follow, but my uncle shoved him back inside, keeping him away from us. My aunt was already on the phone with 911, barking into the receiver, "There's been a break-in, we need officers here now." The next hour felt like a smear of noise and flashing lights and questions. Police again. Statements again. Only this time, the suspect wasn't some unknown shadow. It was the man who lived in our house. The man with keys to every door. The man my mom had shared a bed with for 2 years. They found more cameras, not just the one in my room. One in the hallway. One near the bathroom. One in the living room facing the couch. All hidden. All with footage. They took Mark away in handcuffs while he shouted about how this was all a misunderstanding, how he was only trying to protect us. Nobody believed him anymore. Not with that kind of evidence. Ethan stayed outside, sitting on the curb, hands shaking. When things finally calmed down, I walked over and sat next to him. "You knew," I said quietly. It wasn't a question. He nodded, eyes on the pavement.
I didn't know it was him at first. Just someone. I saw someone climbing into your window one night a long time ago, back when we still lived next door. I tried to tell my parents. They said I must have imagined it. I didn't. So I started watching, tried to catch him on camera. When my family moved, I'd still come back sometimes. Hide. Check. I know that sounds insane.
I shook my head. It sounds like you're the only one who actually noticed. He laughed once, bitter and small.
Yeah. Well, the cops didn't think so. They thought I was the stalker. I guess when you spend too much time around danger, you start looking like danger.
I thought about the first night I saw him on the wardrobe. How, in my half-asleep panic, I'd lumped him in with the thing he was chasing. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Why not just knock on the door and say, "Hey, your mom's boyfriend is a creep, here's the footage"? He shrugged.
Because I was a kid when it started. And by the time I wasn't, I'd already seen how adults react when kids say something's wrong. They don't. I figured if I came at you out of nowhere with, "Hey, your stepdad's been creeping on you for years," you'd either freak out or he'd hear about it and disappear. I needed proof. I needed you to see it yourself.
You let me think you were the stalker, I said.
I let you see me so you'd know you weren't crazy.
He corrected softly.
You were already being watched. I just wanted you to see who else was looking.
We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the distant sound of sirens fading away. My mom was on the porch talking to the officers. My aunt was inside, crying quietly. It felt like the whole house was exhaling for the first time in years. So, what happens now? I asked. Ethan wiped the back of his hand across his lip, where the blood had dried.
Now they're going to go through his devices,
he said.
They'll find a lot more. Maybe not just you. Maybe other girls. Maybe some of the guys he dealt with. He's not getting out of this.
I swallowed. And me? He looked at me then, really looked at me, not like someone's victim, not like some fragile thing, just me.
You,
he said.
Start sleeping in a house that doesn't have hidden cameras.
I let out a shaky laugh. That's a good start. A few weeks later, Mark was officially charged. There were more videos, more photos. Not just of me, but of other girls he'd secretly recorded over the years. Some didn't even live in our house. He'd done this before. I wasn't the first. I probably wouldn't have been the last. We moved. My mom sold the house. We got therapy. We learned how to lock doors, but also how to listen to our instincts. My mom apologized, not once, but many times, for not believing me sooner, for inviting danger in and calling it love. And Ethan? He stopped watching me from wardrobes and windows and fire escapes. He texted instead. Sat across from me in coffee shops like a normal person, walked beside me down streets instead of lurking in shadows. We were two kids who'd grown up with the same monster and just hadn't realized it. Sometimes people online say stuff like,
"How did you not know? How did you not feel something was wrong living in that house?"
And here's the thing, I did feel it, I just didn't trust it, because everyone around me kept saying everything was fine, that I was overreacting, that I was imagining things. And when enough people tell you your fear is dramatic, you start gaslighting yourself. So yeah, I thought I had a stalker. I imagined some stranger lurking in the darkness, some guy who would jump out from behind a bush and grab me on the street. I spent all that time watching the outside, while the real danger walked around with a house key. It wasn't the boy hiding on my wardrobe, it was the man sitting on our couch. If you take anything from this, let it be this. Your body knows before your brain does. If something feels off, it probably is. If you keep waking up afraid, pay attention. If people brush you off but the fear won't leave, don't let it go. Because the monster you're scared of might not be the one in the shadows. It might be the one everyone swears is a really good guy.